Welcome back to It's All Her, the podcast. I'm your host, Jordy Lucas. I'm the founder and editor of It's All Her. I was an actress in a previous life, and I'm a mum to a toddler. I've got a lot going on, and I have a passion for helping women live simpler, better lives. Well, what a week it's been again. Sydney and southeast Queensland are in lockdown. Melbourne's just come out, although that's the thing about this pandemic is you can never get too comfortable. We were meant to be heading away last week and were still meant to be away. Obviously, that didn't happen, and it's really unclear when we'll be able to sort of travel without fear of an outbreak and having to quarantine. So we're getting a puppy instead. You probably think we are crazy for getting a puppy with a toddler, and we probably are, but I think one of my favourite parts of my relationship, and I don't share a lot of our relationship, but we can laugh. It takes a lot for us to be really serious and stressed out and frazzled. Like, we can laugh in almost any situation, and we know it's going to be hard work. There's going to be, a little crazy little puppy weeing and pooing and all that sort of stuff, but I know that we'll be able to laugh through the chaos of it all. And at the end of the day, when it's trained and everything, our little daughter gets a bestie in this dog, and that's what we're both really looking forward to is watching her and this dog, their friendship, because we both grew up with dogs, and it's going to be really special watching Evie and little Bailey, we're going to call him. He's a black lab, and we pick him up this week. We're very excited, so you can head over to my personal Instagram and get some puppy spam if that's what you're interested in. This week on It's All Her, Tegan Martin shares her top tips for a restful night's sleep, and celebrity makeup artist Carla Roccuzzo shares her 5 makeup kit must-haves. This week's guest, Briony Benjamin, was 30 years old when she began to feel generally unwell. After 18 months of being told she was stressed out, depressed, or just needed to relax, she finally received the news that no one wants to hear. She had cancer. Having built a career as a video producer, Briony turned the camera on herself, documenting her journey and treatment in a video that went on to go viral. I'll share the link in the show notes, but a warning to have the tissues handy for that one. Briony has also released a book about the lessons she learned kicking cancer's arse, and we spoke about all that and more. Here's my chat with Briony Benjamin. Briony, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast this week, here to talk about your newly released book, Life is Tough, But So Are You.
Thank you, Jordy.
How are you going this year?
Yeah, look, well, COVID is raging all over the country, isn't it, at the moment? So I think, it's once again a really challenging time for people. But yeah, no, look, I'm doing well. I've been, I'm 3 years in remission now. So it's been a long journey back to health, and I'm still not, there yet. I've been struggling with chronic fatigue and a few other things, but I feel really pumped to be getting this book out into the world and knowing that it can help a whole heap of people. So that's been really exciting to be working on.
And so the book documents a lot of your experience and learnings through your cancer diagnosis and treatment. But can you tell us a bit about your life before your diagnosis?
Yeah. So, I mean, at the time I had a jam-packed, busy life, like so many of us do. I was working as head of video at Mamma Mia Women's Network. So I had a team of producers, and it was fast-paced, and we were churning out video every single day. It was a lot of fun, though. And I had a relationship at the time. I had a jam-packed social life. I was playing squash. I love squash. I fell into this social group in Sydney that all play squash. There's like a whole crew of young people that get together on a Sunday night and play squash. It is such a fun sport, but very intense.
Yeah.
And I was playing touch football, and, so I was doing so much, and I just could not get on top of this sort of pervasive tiredness that I just felt all the time. And I was getting sick sort of really easily all the time. I just felt like I had no immune system. I was having night sweats at night, but other than that, I looked really well. I looked like life was going, incredibly well. And I just kept going back to my doctor over sort of a period of 18 months saying, oh, look, I just still feel terrible. And it was sort of, I think, we investigated a lot of different things, but kept coming to dead ends. And, you know, I think in the end, she was a bit stumped and sort of was putting it down to, you know, stress, overwhelm, a busy work environment. And I kept thinking, yeah, like work's busy, but I've actually never been less stressed in a job. I'd had some really stressful roles that I'd been in. And, you know, when I was working at Mamma Mia, actually, it was sort of like this magical oasis where everyone left at 5 o'clock and you didn't get emails after hours. And, you know, so I thought, well, actually, in the scheme of things, I feel less stressed, but I feel worse than ever. And I think, Jordy, I just got to the point where I was like, well, maybe this is what being an adult feels like. You just feel tired all the time, you know, because I think when you're dealing with ongoing symptoms for a long, long time, everything starts to mesh into one and you sort of, you lose track of it. And I remember a real light bulb moment for me was my boyfriend at the time saying to me, do you realize like you've been sick like the whole time that we've dated? And that was a real, that was a real light bulb moment for me where I thought, oh my gosh, you're right. Like I have been unwell all this time and had just sort of lost track of it.
And so how did you eventually get your diagnosis?
Yeah, well, basically, you know, I have to give full credit to my parents. They were really on my case. I have a mother that was, you know, really alarmed by the fact that I was having night sweats. And, you know, all these seemingly unrelated health issues that I was experiencing. So I had really itchy skin. So we thought, oh, maybe is it a food issue? And I had this cough that just wouldn't go away. And maybe I'm just, you know, still getting over a virus or a cold. But actually, I now know these are all lymphoma symptoms. So itchy skin, cough, night sweats, fatigue, you know, and so they just kept pushing and pushing. They actually ended up coming to visit me in Sydney and went to a doctor with me, who I think was like, what's this, you know, princess millennial snowflake doing with her parents in a, you know, in a doctor's appointment, you know, God, kids these days. But they were just so concerned because they knew I wasn't myself. And, you know, I'd gotten to the point where I wasn't looking forward to anything, you know, and so the doctors start to ask you, oh, are you depressed? And I'm thinking, well, I really don't think I am, but then I'm not really looking forward to anything in life. So, you know, maybe.
I feel so terrible.
Yeah, it crosses over. Anyway, they ended up calling up my GP, speaking to her and just saying, look, we're really worried. We think it might be lymphoma. My dad's actually a vet, so he has a bit of medical knowledge, obviously, like, you know, incredible medical knowledge. And I've since learned in doctors, when they can't actually speak to a patient, you know, that might be mute or incapacitated, they do what's called vet medicine, where they just have to figure it out. So, you know, Dad was doing a bit of vet medicine essentially. And so they insisted I was referred to a hematologist, which is a blood specialist. And the next week I went and saw her. She ordered some tests and said, look, I think we should do a biopsy. So we did that. But I honestly was not thinking twice about it because I thought it'll just be another dead end. And surely if the news was bad, they'd call you straight away, right? And let you know. So I went back in to get the results a week later and my mum insisted on coming with me, flew down from Queensland to Sydney. And I said, oh, Mum, don't worry about it. You know, I was just so focused on my day at work that day. We had Sophie Monk coming in. We had a Facebook Live, you know, that's what my head was in. I was like, oh, traffic. Oh, I'm so busy, Mum. I don't have time to have, you know, to catch up. So don't even bother. And thank goodness she was there because, I went in to get these results. And the doctor sat me down and just said, look, the results are back and it is Hodgkin's lymphoma, like your parents were worried about.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to just clear your next 3 to 6 months, start a chemotherapy regime and get you better. And, you know, at that point, you know, it's so surreal. You're just thinking, oh, she's mucked up my results for someone else's. Like, this is not, you know, she's going to just tell me in a moment, this is all a mistake. But it wasn't, unfortunately. So you just sit there in this sort of surreal out-of-body experience moment because it's just never the news I don't suppose anyone expects to find out, but particularly when you're 31 and, you know, relatively well and healthy and functioning. So, it was a big shock.
And what was her sort of attitude towards a treatment? Was she positive that you know, you would respond to treatment and, you know, obviously 3 to 6 months of chemotherapy is a horrendous outlook, but was she relatively positive that you would respond?
Yes. Well, I mean, I suppose in those early days, they're trying to just keep you calm and positive regardless, right? So, and she had an incredible bedside manner, this specialist. I was so lucky to have really incredible female specialists all through my treatment. And I remember the first question I asked her just was to sort of gauge how severe it was. I just said, you know, am I going to lose my hair? And I remember her just saying, yes, you will, but it will grow back, you know? And she said, you know, I knew that once we'd looked at it a little bit, she said, you know, the prognosis for this kind of cancer is good. Having said that, I was at stage 4 by the time we found it. So it had left my lymph glands, which meant it had spread through my body and was in my bones and sort of was all over the place. So, you know, but I think in that first meeting, what she did that was really excellent advice. She just said to me, you know, the key thing for today is I don't want you to think too far ahead. I don't want you Googling it. We're not going to look into it too much. All I want you to do is just, you know, we're just going to focus on the next 3 steps. And that's getting a blood test done, getting your heart and lung test done, and getting you in for an IVF appointment this afternoon to look at, you know, options for freezing your eggs, which, you know, once again, as a 31-year-old who was in a relatively new relationship and just hadn't been thinking about those sort of options, that was like, whoa, okay. This wasn't on my to-do list this morning, Jordy.
This is not how I thought I was going to talk to Sophie Monk later on.
I know. Excuse me, I've got a really busy appointment with Sophie Monk. So can we just speed this up?
Was there a part of you that was angry that it had taken so long, and then by the time you were diagnosed, you were stage 4? Was there an anger there?
You know, anger is strangely an emotion that I really honestly never felt.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I certainly, you know, there was like a disappointment that we couldn't have cottoned on to this a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
You know, and it's something I've since learned that women take a lot longer to get a cancer diagnosis than men. And we're way more likely to have our symptoms ascribed to a mental health condition. So, you know, it's something I just say to everyone now, and I write about it in the book. I say, at the end of the day, you are the world's leading expert on you. You know, you are the only one who knows what it feels like to live inside your body. And so as much as you want to, you know, trust your medical professionals and listen to their advice and always be polite and kind, you've also got to really advocate for yourself and be quite insistent. You know, if you really know something's not right, you've got to keep digging and you've got to keep asking for answers, and you've got to be saying, what else can we do? Who next? What other person can I go and speak to? If this was you, what would you do? Because, you know, this is just such a common story, unfortunately, when it comes to, you know, cancer diagnoses, autoimmune, all sorts of health crises. But you know, I think particularly with women, like the science does show, the research does show that, you know, the medical fraternity just doesn't really know as much about us as they do of men's bodies, because, you know, most testing and experimenting has always been done on men. You know, the case studies, a lot of them are based off men. There's a fabulous book by Gabrielle Jackson called Pain and Prejudice, and it's all about this concept that women just, you know, our pain is often not taken as seriously, and we take a lot longer to get a diagnosis. So we've really got it really is a matter of life and death for us to speak up and use our voices, you know, and advocate for ourselves.
I read in the book that during your treatment, you felt so unwell and you were in so much pain. And I think you say that you feel like the chemo couldn't have possibly even touched the sides of your body. But then you had this amazing news that you were in remission.
Yeah. So it was, honestly, Jordy, it was nearly as surreal as being told in the first instance I had cancer.
Yeah.
I was incredibly fortunate that early on in my chemotherapy, I got the all clear. I went in to just get my scans thinking, oh, you know, I'm feeling so awful. This, you know, this hasn't even touched the sides. And and she sat me down and said, so we've got the scans back and you're in remission. And I didn't know what that meant at that point. I said, so what does that mean exactly? And she said, well, it means we can't see the cancer in your body at this point. So that's really excellent news.
And so how far into your treatment was this?
So I was 6 weeks into chemotherapy at this point. Yeah.
Wow.
So it was extraordinary that it had spread so far and was all through me, and it retreated so quickly. You know, I was just incredibly lucky that my body responded so well to the chemotherapy. And what it meant, because my brilliant specialists were so up to date on, they had read, these women were extraordinary. They had read every single report that had come out everywhere on treatment and chemo and everything. And so, I remember her saying, look, the latest cutting edge research says that if you're in remission at this point, we're going to cut 2 rounds of chemotherapy off. So that means taking 6 weeks off, which for fertility and overall health is just amazing, because it's those last bits that get tougher and tougher and tougher. So I was incredibly fortunate. I couldn't believe it. I was absolutely floored. So yeah.
And so you've gone through all of this, and you've released this book, Life is Tough, But So Are You. And it's quite obvious what the inspiration was for this book. But was there a light bulb moment where you thought, I need to share this experience and what I've learned?
Oh, it's a really good question. So I suppose I documented via video the whole journey. My friends early on encouraged me to do it. I'm a video maker, I'm a filmmaker, but I was sort of quite uncomfortable with the idea of starting to capture it, because I thought, one, I don't know at that point, I didn't know how it was going to go. I didn't know, if I'd be around in a year's time. And also, you're capturing yourself in your most vulnerable moments ever. You've got no hair, no eyebrows, no eyelashes. It's not exactly how you want to show up on camera, but I'm so glad I did it. I was sort of encouraged by some friends who bought me some equipment. And it was also really therapeutic, I think, to do it, I did a lot of journaling throughout treatment and a lot of video logging. And I think it just gets it out of your head and helps you kind of make sense of it somehow. And so I pieced that together and ended up, I got a girlfriend to edit it into this beautiful short little film called You Only Get One Life. And that ended up, Mia Friedman, who's a good friend of mine who I was working with at Mamamia, she shared it for me on Mamamia. And as a result, it went viral. And that's sort of when I suppose Murdoch Books, they saw it and thought, oh, this could make such a helpful book for other people that are going through not just a cancer struggle or a health crisis, but any kind of crisis. Because, the more I've learned, the more I realize, like, really, there's so many similarities, no matter what the crisis is that you're going through, around accepting what's happening, assembling that A team, asking for what you want to need, there's a lot of similarities. And I just thought, I had such positive feedback from the video. I had so many people reach out to me and just say how it had helped them so much, or it had just given them clarity around what was really important. I had someone say to me, I haven't spoken to my mum in 10 years. And after seeing your video, I called her and just went and made that connection, because I thought, if something happened to me, she's my mum, I would want her there. What am I doing stuffing around with this petty kind of fight? Someone else that booked tickets to go and see their parents who they hadn't seen in years. So there was such a positive response to that I thought, I think there's something in this that could be really helpful for people. And I know for me, when I was going through treatment, I got given a lot of books, but they were dense and they were heavy and they were black and white and they had scary titles, and I just couldn't go near them. I couldn't even open them. And I wanted to create the complete antithesis to that. I wanted to create something that if you're going through a really tough time, it's this little book that you can go back to time and time again, that's just got words of encouragement and little helpful ways of thinking about things, so it's just a friend who's been there and done it and gets it and is really on your level, rather than someone that's just saying, oh, do this and do that. Because for me, it was the guidance and help of friends that had really been through something that was the most helpful. That was the stuff that really sustained me and got me through.
Yeah. And it is a shame, isn't it, that it often takes a major life event or a crisis or turmoil to make us sort of stop and reassess and make change for the better. I feel that's a real common theme when I talk to women, is that, we coast along and then something happens and then we're like, shit, what am I doing? And we reassess.
A total shake up. And I'm sure you're familiar with the term of post-traumatic growth, this term that was coined around, because it is something that sort of blows up your life. It really makes you reconsider everything. And so many, whilst I really hate the phrase, all things happen for a reason. I am the first person to believe that really great things can come out of awful situations. And, the clarity it's given me, the, just the refocusing of where you want to put your energy in your life, that life is short and it's brief, and it, you know, you get this one chance to do it. And yet we can be so consumed often with just trivial, unimportant things, you know, that suck up so much of our energy.
Yeah.
And I just think I've got a much lower threshold for that these days, for sure. I'm like, it doesn't matter, you know, things, you know, whilst having said that, some things, I feel like I get more frazzled these days in some ways, just because with the chronic fatigue and my energy being lower, I can go into that frazzle mode more quickly. Bigger picture stuff, I feel like I'm quite good on.
Perspective.
And then it's just using actually a lot of tools in the book that I come back to time and time again, just to recenter, calm, and, you know, and do those daily practices that keep you feeling good and well. Because particularly when you're dealing with something ongoing like chronic fatigue or a chronic illness or health condition, you just don't have the same bandwidth that other people have. So you've got to be really, really, you know, strict about those things. And one of those things for me that's been probably the biggest shift is I am absolutely so focused on sleep these days. And I really used to, you know, I've burnt the candle at both ends for many, many years, and I really think that did help contribute obviously to this illness. We don't know what causes lymphoma, but certainly I was giving my body no chance to recuperate and catch up. And you know, it's a shame, isn't it? Like you said, it shouldn't take a major life crisis to get us to really wake up to what is important, what's, you know, how the importance of our health and how it's the most precious gift we'll ever be given. But it does seem to sometimes we have to learn the hard way. So I'm hoping maybe that, you know, if even just a few people take something out of this story that helps them, then that would be fantastic.
So you're treating your body kinder, you're, you know, respecting your health and your body. How else are you sort of living differently, and what are some of your other sort of favorite lessons that you've learned that are in the book?
Well, I think, you know, just the people, the company that you keep, I've learnt is just, you know, one of the most important things in your entire life, isn't it? You know, being around good energy, being around people that lift you up. I just don't have capacity to be around people that drain your energy anymore. And that's not to say that if a friend's having a hard time or struggling, like that's not what I mean by that. But you know what it is, those people, Julia Baird writes about it in her book, Phosphorescence. There are penthouse people or there are basement people, you know, people that after you've been with them, they've, you know, you feel like you're in the penthouse, and other people that just sort of drain the energy out of you. So I'm really strict about that, just being around kind people. I think when you go through a crisis, you find out the value of your kind friends, you know, those people that are just really thoughtful and the people that show up and are there for you. And then the other thing for me has just been, you know, I'm really passionate about the environment. I always have been, but it's really sped that up for me, I suppose. Put a spotlight on that, because I really see the way we treat our bodies is really reflected in the way we're treating our planet. You know, it's all about extracting as much as we can and just, you know, getting as much bang for our buck. And it's sort of this direct correlation, you know, and yet the health of our bodies is completely tied to the health of our environment that we're in. So just sort of realizing the parallels between that has been a really interesting revelation to me. So wanting to do something with my time on this planet to leave it better than I found it. So it does get you thinking about those big picture sort of legacy questions and issues, and wanting to focus on that now, you know, not when I'm 70. So
what does work look like for you now?
So work at the moment, I mean, at the moment I'm just focusing on the book, largely, but you know, which is interesting because for me, that's been a decision to pull right back on all my production work. Normally Briony of old would go, that's all right, I can fit everything in and I'll do the book and this and that. But I just don't want to be sick all the time, and I don't have the bandwidth to do that. So that's been the hardest part of my journey, has been learning to say no and pulling right back on all the things that I'm doing. Because you just, when your default is to like, oh no, I can do it and I'll make it happen and I'll fit it in, and you're just constantly, you know, spreading yourself so thin. But like Jordy, honestly, like it's been a journey, and it's still a journey I'm on, and it's been, you know, sometimes I'll say no. I don't know how you go in this regard. I'll say no, and then I'll just feel physically ill for the hour
Oh,
after,
yeah.
you know. And I'm like, what
The
is with
guilt
us women?
of saying
yeah.
no.
Yeah. Whereas guys just go, oh no, I can't fit it in. No, you know, and no one actually minds that much. People understand, you know, particularly when it's health issues, or, you know, it doesn't even need to be health issues. It can just be, I just can't do it right now. I can't do it well. So yeah. I'm just still doing some production. I work with a bunch of amazing purpose-led organizations and some startups that are doing really creative, innovative things in the world. But other than that, I'm just trying to write every day and just enjoy each day, really. I spent all day yesterday signing all the pre-orders, which was quite fun, and I was on track. And then my dad, out of nowhere, he's a vet, brought home 2 puppies.
I saw this on your Instagram.
Oh my goodness. I'm like, how am I ever meant to work again? I just want to play with puppies. 2 tiny little, like,
so cute,
fit in the palm of your hand mini foxies. So, you know, but I was thinking about it this morning as I was playing with them in bed. They make you so present, don't they? Dogs, children, like anything where you can actually just be in the moment. I think as creative types, you know, we can spend a lot of time in our head, or just not even as creative types, just as women doing a million things. But it's been once again one of the biggest learnings for me, just to try, and it's a conscious thing that you have to think about daily, coming back into that moment, coming back into this day. You know, and something I write about in the book as well is just, you know, I hear people so often on the phone to their parents, being so sort of harsh with them, you know, or so, oh yeah, no. And I just think, and I recall myself doing that one day with my mum, who I just adore. And after everything that we've been through together, I thought, you know, one day I will do anything for my mum to call me, and she won't be able to. She won't be here. So I'm going to just enjoy this moment now and always be kind with her. And that's, you know, that's been a really deliberate thing that I practice every day. Yeah.
It sounds like it's just given you greater perspective on life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So finishing off, I spoke to you before about the sort of new mission for It's All Her, and how we're sort of on a mission to help women live simpler, better lives. So how do you live a simpler, better life?
I think coming back to what we were just talking about, with just doing a whole lot less, taking on a lot less, really trying to be present and enjoy the moments that I'm in. Finding the things that give me meaning and give me energy, and avoiding the things that don't. And I think it's really changed as well the types of energy that I hang around. Recently, I've met a gorgeous guy who I've started dating this year. And interestingly, it came through the cancer community. So a girl that I'd been helping, we connected through Instagram. And for the last 2 years, I've just been someone she could reach out to and talk to. And it turns out she had a lovely big brother who's just moved back from overseas and was keen to meet me. So, you know, lovely things can come out of terrible situations. But I say that because he's such a different energy to the sort of energy I would normally have been drawn to. You know, he's very kind and gentle and thoughtful and just beautiful, you know, whereas I think before I'd go for the really loud, you know, full of life person in the room that actually, you know, isn't necessarily the best fit for me. So it's interesting how it changes that. But I think as well, Jordy, going through this chronic fatigue journey and going to the Chronic Fatigue Centre in Sydney at UNSW, I was really shocked last week to learn for the first time really that I don't know what rest is, and I don't rest ever. So they said to me, because I sort of laid out all my rest activities in a week, and they said, right, so you know that watching television is not resting, reading a book is not resting, listening to a podcast is not resting. And I was like, oh, well, what's left? You know, I can see your face going, oh dear, I don't think I rest resting. So they said resting is literally, you know, sitting with a cup of tea and staring out the window and doing nothing. That's resting. Wow. When was the last time you did that, Jordy?
Never.
In 1998 sometime.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, I think we live in a culture that doesn't value rest and doesn't really comprehend even what it is. So that was a real wake up moment for me to go. And, you know, I find it just impossible to sit there and do nothing. But what I've found helps is actually going out and sitting in a garden if you can, or a park, and actually like taking in the birds, or, you know, looking at the trees swaying in the breeze, something like that kind of gives you something to do, but it's quite mindless, you know, and you can just, just be. And they encourage me to try and do, 15 minutes of that 3 times a day. I'll be honest with you, I maybe do about 5 minutes twice a day at the moment, but I'm trying to buid up.
Baby
and that's
steps.
what they said. Yeah, they said just, and even if to start with, you can find a minute to do that, or 30 seconds, like just some little slithers of silence and just being.
Yeah.
I think it just calms the nervous system. It just puts our bodies back into that, calming mode. And I think it's so important.
Yeah. Oh, Briony, the book is out now. Life is Tough, But So Are You. I will put all the links in the show notes. Thank you so much for sharing with us, and I can't wait to see more puppy spam on your
Instagram. Everyone's like, I'm just living for this right now. I'm in lockdown. I just need puppy spam. So, thank you, Jordy, and thank you so much for having me on. And look forward to just watching your, what you've created. Just go to from strength to strength with this new name and brand and vision. It's just wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Chat soon.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of It's All Her. If you have enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts, and stay tuned for next week's episode.